Hello and welcome to PubShorts episode 44. The co-scientist, we are kind of cheating here. We have already used the scientist from the Coldplay as a reference in one of our previous episodes, but we had to do it because we are talking about Google's AI co-scientist. Tony is already showing the records that he has, but let's introduce ourselves. My name is Dr. KK. I am the innovation officer at Trinka and Inago, and I have with me Tony. Tony, explain what you do, what your musical interests are, and what Trinka
I'm not
is.
going to talk about my music. No, I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm VP for partnerships. I mean, if I talk about my musical interests, we talk about nothing else. I look after our relationships with publishers and and increasingly with research organisations and universities in terms of how they can use our services, AI and language services, as part of their regular workflows.
Right, right.
And this is PubShorts, which is this is now episode 44, I believe, the scientist, of a frequently recorded, often live streamed, episodic podcast. KK and I discuss different aspects relating to research technology, how technology is used in research, and research integrity.
Right.
Hopefully, coming up with topics and suggestions for topics which will help the researcher when they're thinking about their research activities and research careers and how they can communicate their research.
Yes. So, regardless of the topics that we need to cover, we always will have a song reference related to a UK
Yeah,
artist in the title of the show. And that is why this episode is The Co-Scientist. It is referring to the Google's AI co-scientist, the latest hot news. It's about a week old already as on the day that we record. And I'm switching to the first story, Tony. So it's a typical headline that you would probably chuckle at. So let's just see if you can Google's new research assistant AI give scientists superpowers. So I'm gonna ask you what your thoughts are regarding the title. Is it clickbaity?
I think it's a very attractive title. Anything that can give anybody superpowers is worth reading. But I think what we're talking about here is probably one of the most important innovations for
Yeah,
research,
yeah, yeah.
for
Thank,
scientists.
Thanks for controlling the frivolity of my conversation at the start of this episode. But let's get to the actual article itself. So, researchers have been given access. Now, everybody has access to Google's AI co scientist tool, and researchers are enthusiastic about its potential. But it's not
Yeah.
clear whether it's clearly novel. So, what is a co scientist? We have the actual Google research paper as the next window that I'll share. But this is a system that Google has developed, an experimental AI system, Tony. It's called the AI co-scientist to help scientists synthesize literature, generate hypotheses, and suggest research plans. Sounds like everything that ChatGPT could do or has been doing. ChatGPT is an example. Other large language models are doing. But it's different, and what are the differences? We'll explain shortly. It does everything that one could think of and has several sort of checkpoints to make sure that it does things right. Now, previously, so far at least, Google's AI products, I know that, in conversations with our own products teams, many of our AI developers are very, well, they like the Google Gemini LLMs for giving very accurate results, but researchers have generally not been talking about it. They've been talking about Perplexity and ChatGPT. But now, it seems like Google has changed things around. So I'll pause here. What are your thoughts so far on what it promises?
Um, I think the opportunity, the possibilities here, fantastic. What they're talking about is really sort of taking away, removing the shackles of how far what the kind of research that needs to take place. As long as it's properly managed, I think this is potentially a game changer.
Right. So as the article mentions, Google has already made the system available. Many researchers have already used it, and we are talking about the results of these use cases in the actual paper itself, which is titled "Towards an AI Co-Scientist." I like the font type already of this research paper, if I want to call it. And you can see a bunch of Google's AI research wings are already a part of the affiliations. And so I'm going to just go scroll down to this main infographic before I read out my notes. So it introduces the AI system, as I mentioned. The AI co-scientist uses a multi-agent framework. So again, we are already talking about what we've been talking about in the last couple of months. Agents, AI agents, multi-agent framework based on Gemini 2.0, Tony, and it employs a generate, debate, and evolve approach. And some of the key applications which you will see here, some of these look drug repurposing for acute myeloid leukemia, AML, identifying novel treatment targets for like liver fibrosis, and parallel in silico discovery of
Yeah.
bacterial gene transfer mechanisms relevant to antimicrobial resistance. So these were the things that were reported in the New Scientist article as well. So some results have already come in. Methodology, it uses test time compute scaling and tournament based evaluation, which I honestly don't think that I understand all of this, but this will give you an idea. There is the scientist interacts with the system. A scientist, as an actual researcher, will interact with the system in natural language, and there will be research goals that are inputted, and this research plan will be conducted during, I mean, using these techniques. There's a generation agent, there are different agents, reflection agent, evolution agent, and these are all sort of, they are playing a game. It's gamified so that the results are more accurate. So and at the bottom of it all, there is always the researcher, human in the loop, and or scientist in the loop collaboration. And these are some of the results. So the results are not like ground shattering or whatever, but at the same time, it is moving the LLM application in the context of academic research. And now we are talking beyond peer review and screening. We are talking about doing research itself. And this is probably the first step, first major step that LLMs have sort of stepped past a barrier into becoming really these multi-purpose, very powerful tools to help researchers in many of these steps. So now I'll let you talk about what your thoughts are after seeing all of this.
We've come a long way since the launch of the electronic calculator. Oh, listen, the possibilities here are endless. I think I did say in a couple of some episodes ago that I thought my prediction for 2025 was what we're gonna see more and more of in 2025, and I said agentic networks will be one of the top topics, and this is a really interesting application of an agentic network, an agentic framework, where they're using different LLMs to almost to check each other. So no, I think and they're given three examples of medical applications or medical applications. We're going to see a lot more of that. But as long as there's human oversight, as long as there's some kind of control and checking process, which of course there will be, then I'm very excited to see how this develops.
Right. So this is the AI co-scientists, when it was used for drug repurposing for AML, suggested an existing drug that could be repurposed for AML, and this is the drug in terms of concentration. So it's proven effective. That's what I'm reading. And then in terms of identifying novel treatment targets, again, it was able to find some things, novel treatment targets for liver fibrosis, and again, it was able to find, what is it, in silico discovery of bacterial gene transfer mechanisms related to antimicrobial resistance. So all medical discoveries, and I've been telling you, Tony, on this podcast and in other conversation, that AI would completely revolutionize, in my opinion, medical literature, medical science, more than anything else, because there's so
Yeah.
much to discover by scientists, and AI can do all of it. So I'm
Actually, and if I can have a little commercial ad break for a second, we have actually got AI products which we've developed ourselves, which helps the researcher to really explore the literature and summarize the literature and identify the most relevant literature using a tool called Anago Read. And I'd encourage researchers to go and have a look.
And I personally have had several conversations with some of the pharma companies who want us to help build products for helping or moving their R&D processes, making them more efficient and everything. So the I mean, it is a future that promises so much, but we'll have to keep an eye about how these new AI systems are delivering in terms of their promises. So let's keep fingers crossed and hope that things turn out really well. Now we are back to our routine peer review related research. So this is the first preprint on this episode. So this is titled review eval and evaluation framework for AI generated review. Now, this is
Yeah.
not dissimilar to things that we've talked about, but it is I mean, we have to still present all the new findings from the research or the fresh research that is coming up in the context of peer review and AI. So it discusses this research discusses key dimensions used in the evaluation, which are alignment with the scope of the peer review, factual accuracy, the analytical depth, and insights. And this novel alignment mechanism that tailors LLM generated reviews to the unique evaluation priorities of individual conferences and journals. This is a key thing. So it is basically trying to, if you have a, let's say, off the shelf peer review platform, can you customize it for a conference proceedings type of review or a journal? And the answer is yes, the results are promising. And I'm sort of I'm seeing things like the self refinement loop, which is mentioned further down below, and it unfortunately it's still using computer science based literature for checking all of this. I am excited again as to as I've always been when I see such research. I hope that this eventually leads to actual products that can help publishers and reviewers and journals to fix their
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, and we're going to see more and more of these tools. You know, we have a tool called the peer review assistant, which is a step towards providing assisted peer review, not just of journal content, but of any type of content, indeed. You know, and there is a facility also there to customize it according to the requirements of a particular publisher or a particular journal.
Right, and this is I'm just zooming out a little so that you can see the entirety of the infographic. So this is the most key infographic here. So you are fed, then the system is fed the journal or conference guidelines and the paper, and these are the things that it'll analyze and eventually help the reviewer to create a very high quality review. It's
I
in
mean,
my opinion.
there's no question there's a huge need for more structured peer review within conference publishing. It's something which is done very well in some places, but is lacking in others. I think so. I'd like to see it being used more in that area.
Right. Moving on to the next peer review related research story, I think it's a research sorry, it's a review article based on the existing or whenever this research was conducted, the existing AI based peer review system. So it is slightly dated. So let me it's titled Artificial Intelligence in Peer Review, Enhancing Efficiency While Preserving Integrity. It's published in the Journal of Korean Medical Science. So the first off, it it is a literature review that was done about a few months ago, and it is only looking at published research on AI based literature review systems. So that's why I said it's a little dated, and basically it states everything that we have at least talked about in PubShorts as, let's say, gaps that need to be addressed in AI based peer review. So for example, AI's inability, Tony, to fully understand complex scientific content and evaluate research novelty and significance, then missed errors, biases, ethical considerations, all of these are listed here. And the reason why I'm talking about why I brought this to our agenda is that things have moved forward. This is a literature review which is slightly dated. There are so many products, including some of our own products, that are about to address all the problems in AI based peer review that have been brought up in the paper. So your thoughts?
And that's kind of the challenge with a show like PubShorts. You know, the technology is moving so quickly that something we've talked about maybe 10, 15, 20 episodes ago, it's already been replaced. It's already been outdated by something else. So you know, I kind of I envy I feel sorry for the authors of this paper because you know so much has moved in a relatively short period of time.
Yes, and the authors are simply doing what they're supposed to in terms of literature
Yeah,
review. So many products do
absolutely.
not have associated, let's say, manuscript or research, original research associated with them. Maybe that's another concern. Maybe we should have more original research for all these new products as well. Maybe that will help such literature reviews
I
become
think we'll see there will be as these tools get become increasingly popular and they become endemic. You will see a lot more research taking place.
right. So I'm now going to the next AI large language model related announcement. So first, maybe I should talk about the CNN article. So this is a CNN article which is titled "Anthropic Unveils Advanced AI Hybrid Reasoning Model." So there's a lot Anthropic, which is basically people know it as Claude as the chat AI interface. So it's an advanced model. First of all, it's a hybrid reasoning model. So it lets you choose a lot of parameters. So let me just read my notes. It's called 3.7 Sonnet, Claude 3.7 Sonnet. It offers faster responses and step-by-step reasoning, which has been seen in the O models of OpenAI, ChatGPT, and it is focused on real world tasks as per the article, and it includes a coding tool called Claude Code, and pricing is competitive. So this is the initial thing that I want to talk about. And then the TechCrunch article is titled Anthropic launches a new AI model that thinks as long as you want. So what does that mean? The users, Tony, can choose how long the AI does the reasoning step. So if you have used reasoning models, it basically is breaking down our natural language input into smaller statements, and it's reasoning with itself. So the user is trying to ask this, so should I do that and this. So you can determine or you can set how long it should think, and that's a customizable feature that this model has brought. That's a main difference that at least the TechCrunch article suggests. And it is more expressive as per the article. This model is more expressive than OpenAI's and DeepSeek's models, but offer hybrid and offers hybrid capabilities. And it seems to outperform OpenAI's O3 Mini in accuracy for coding tasks. So I'll pause here. I don't know if you have used Claude. I don't know if you have used reasoning models. You should, in my opinion. It's fun to see how the AI breaks things down.
KK, I don't need to when we've got people like you to look at these tools on our behalf. I
Right.
just need to understand how they work.
So now, I still encourage everybody to use it because you need to know how things sort of
Of
work in the
course.
background. And there are people who are much better than me or more expert like than me who have done who already used this, and Ian Mulvaney is one of such one of the AI experts. And this headline, I want to read it. Claude 3.7 is impressive. How do we start to think about what it can do? Also known as, this is a mic drop moment. Our entire industry, which is the academic industry or the publishing industry, has shifted, and we have not yet even noticed the wave moving beneath us. I'll let you breathe that entire concept in and share your thoughts before I move on to my
Oh,
notes.
listen, Ian's an interesting chap. He's director of technology for the British Medical Journal for BMJ, and is a real advocate for the use of the positive use of technology and within the sort of scholarly publishing space. He probably one of the 10, I think important influencing thinkers in this space. So I'm really keen to see how um, uh, Claude 3.7. If he thinks Claude 3.7 is going to make an impact, then I think we should all listen.
So I think what he's trying to say is he's talking about Claude 3.5, and we'll see why he's talking about it. But we have to also keep in mind that a couple of weeks ago, 4.5 ChatGPT's 4.5 model, GPT 4.5 were released. Those were advanced reasoning models. Google AI co-scientist is an advanced reasoning model. This is the hybrid reasoning model. But anyway, so that's we are in the last couple of weeks we have shifted from the earlier type of models, which were less useful for research purposes. Remember the deep research, narrow spectrum models as well. So things are changing so fast, and that's a wave that he's talking about. Now,
Yeah.
Ian is discussing the capabilities of Claude 3.7, a language model that could transform peer review and academic process, as per him. And he shares an experiment, Tony, using a hepatitis C study to test the model's potential. So he basically, I think he's inputted a study and asked it to create some visualizations. And here I will open the visualization so that everybody can see it. So if you click on this link, you are basically entering what is referred to as a Claude shareable artifact. So it's Claude is, or Anthropic is clearly stating that you're viewing a user generated artifact. I've already created it, and I found that his workflow was similar to the workflow that I was using to create infographics out of whatever that I wanted to create using Claude. So this is again AI generated, and so I'm going to ask it to show content. And so life after hepatitis C treatment. So this is interactive visualization explored what happens after successful treatment based on that study. So you can see how wonderful it is. You can create such very useful infographics for research impact cases, for patient education and everything. I'm just going past it. These are the leading causes of death after HCV cure. So these are all created within a span of 10 minutes after feeding in the data, and this is as per his opinion. Obviously, these are not completely I mean 100% accurate, or they need human intervention to make them better. But from nothing to about this level of detail and accuracy in about 10 minutes or something, that's what I think he's saying is
That's
incredible. That's what he's saying.
amazing.
And
Amazing.
yeah, and I'm going to talk, I think this is another one, another artifact. So I think this, yeah, so there's a game, so start simulation he's talking about. Look at this, these things have been created using the research paper that he has fed in. And you have such wonderful, you can use it for medical education, for training young doctors or surgeons for this, for teaching them. I don't know where the limits are for such a thing, and I'm so happy that there are people like Ian who are talking about these models changing the game. Now, having seen this, what are your thoughts, Tony?
I suppose just from a practical point of view, I suppose I'm thinking about how uh, creating content like this can be used in medical education. One of the big things in medical education is accreditation. If you're going to use this as part of your medical education program, the content needs to be accredited in some way. So I'm interested to see how this will then evolve and go into that whole accreditation process, so that it can be used formally in the medical education process. Because I think, again, as Ian says, it's potentially a mic drop moment in terms of how medical research can be communicated and taught.
Yeah, and this is, I think, his stress is for patient communication and patient management simulations in the context of hepatitis C. Whatever research that he's, keen to, he's aware of, he can, without spending a lot of time, he can determine whether these things are accurate. That's even I do that. If I know a couple of papers that I'm very sort of, I'm aware of what the content of the paper is, then I can use it for testing AI tools, just like how we. Yeah.
So I was going to say, anyone interested in how technology is going to impact on medical publishing specifically, I would really encourage people to follow Ian's blog.
Yeah, and this is again, we still, as in Tony, we are building our own AI peer review assistant for structured peer review to
Yeah.
help publishers. Now, we haven't even scratched the surface in terms of using these reasoning models or the narrow spectrum models. So that's something that we are yet to use, and I'm very excited because I'm part of the team that develops such products. So
Version
please.
2.0.
Yeah. And so if you want to learn more about the AI technologies that we are creating and working with publishers and other organizations, please go to inago.com publishers, / publishers, and check out all the things that we are doing. And if you're interested in having conversation with us, get in touch with either me or Tony on LinkedIn, and we would love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Right. A couple of quick hits. This is specifically, I brought this up because it's an interesting hypothesis, I guess, or a reason that that the research is attributing to peer review fatigue. So this is a commentary published in Ethics. Sorry, is it?
Accountability research.
Yeah, accountability in research, and it's titled "Peer Review Fatigue" or "Peer Reviewer Refusal." So it examines the issue of reviewers refusing peer review, and the researchers synthesize accounts of peer review refusal from various sources and discuss the advantages and disadvantages of this practice. The authors suggest some preliminary recommendations for academics to voice dissatisfaction, and one of the things that they are stating is that some reviewers do not want to review for profit journals voluntarily, and that's probably one of the reasons why. So I'm going to ask you this question: do you agree, or do you think that it's a main
Oh,
pain?
I absolutely agree. I mean, just again, full disclosure, we can provide, if required, paid peer review services for publishers if they need it. So very often a publisher will struggle to find a second or a third reviewer for a paper, and will come to us to help identify a reviewer. We have already made a ready pool of reviewers that are happy to help. The problem is, I had conversations with publishers who said that, out of 100 invitations they send out for peer review, they might get 10 or 15 positive responses,
Right.
because reviewers just don't have the time. They receive so many responses, requests for review. Society publishers don't tend to have the same problem. It's still a problem, but not to the same extent, because the reviewers for society journals often or feel they have more of a stake or an association with their not-for-profit
Right.
societies, and are often more willing to submit. But it's an issue that they share as well. So yeah, I think this is a real issue. I mean, I don't know if you noticed on this particular article, KK, this is the difficulty finding a review. One of the reasons why it can take so long for an article to get published is finding a reviewer. This article was submitted in November 2023 and was published online over a year later. Now, I'm not saying that was the only reason, but you do wonder if they had difficulty finding good reviewers.
Very, very interesting case, Tony. I would have missed it. Thank you for bringing it up. And it's a nice sort of ironical sort of state of the article itself that it took so long to.
I mean, there's a number of reasons why an article could take a long time to publish. It may not be about the reviewers. It could be about the versions, the editorial feedback that they get from the viewers. It's an interesting comment.
Right, and the last quick hit that we have is article published in ukrand.nl. It's a Dutch, as in publication. It's a magazine, science magazine, and this article is titled. The translated version is titled "Does Peer Review Still Work?" And it shares personal stories from researchers, including people or researchers being crushed after peer review because of harsh and insensitive personal critique that they receive, which really should not be a part of peer review. And it suggests open science and open platforms, including open peer review, as a potential solution. Now, I want your thoughts on this. Do you agree with this? And shouldn't there be technological assistance for reviewers to improve the quality of their comments, be more sensitive, more empathic, and more inclusive?
I don't know if I agree with that. I think research at the end of the day is a tough business, and to be successful in research, you have to have a certain amount of toughness, for want of a better word, about you. And accept criticism. Okay, if it's unfounded, you can always make complaints about that criticism internally or within your peers. But I think one of the great things about research has been that kind of that rigor, that questioning, the fact that people who have a superior knowledge to you potentially can comment and say this is good or this is bad, or I don't think you're doing the right thing. Or your approach is wrong, or whatever the reasons are. And sometimes it can get personal, and that's unfortunate. But I think it's a for want of a better term, dog eat dog. You've got to be resilient.
Right. The tone of the comments, the content of the comments can remain the same. The tone maybe can improve, and some improvements can lead to a better state in the overall.
No, you're right. There's no point for kind of unconstructive, negative without some kind of supporting evidence. I think constructive but strongly worded comments, I think, should be welcomed.
Right. And with that, I think, Tony, we are bringing to the end of bringing this episode to its end. So episode 44, the co-scientist. Now, we were in our pre-production meeting. We discussed we'll talk about what gigs you went to, but I have to tell you the last thing that we just talked about, the article, in terms of what your thought is pretty much the base story of The Brutalist, which is the Oscar-nominated movie. It didn't win the best prize, but I really strongly encourage you and everybody to watch. It's a masterpiece of a movie. Lots of nice things about it, but I'll let you sort of just remember what we discussed in this.
The longest acceptance speech by an actor for many years.
Also, the longest movies. It's like 3 hours and 34 minutes.
It's like The Godfather.
Yeah, so I've got my personal assistant reminding me of something. So let's bring this episode to its end, Tony. So, Tony, if somebody wants to find out more about PubShorts or more about you and me, how can they do it?
Well, they can find out more about PubShorts when they visit the PubShorts link YouTube channel, follow and like those videos. And you can contact KK and me directly via LinkedIn, or you can contact me directly with suggestions, ideas for future topics at tony@anago.com.
Right. And with that, we come to the end of episode 44, the co-scientists of PubShorts. We will see you in the next one. And on behalf of everyone, including Tony, this is Dr. KK signing off. We will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
See you next time.